Ombudsman Bobby Scott, who's going to say a few words. Shall I go ahead and read my bullets on you, or does everybody know you?
I was just looking at it.
It's a little long, but
It's also the whole.
you've done a lot. So he'll say a few words, and you can be reading this.
It's a little old because they've got good news and bad news. Good news is I'm now the ranking member on the Committee on Education and Workforce. The bad news is, in that capacity, I can only serve on one committee, so I'm no longer on the Judiciary Committee in person. I am there. I've got a virtual spot over there. I'm still very active in crime policy, particularly juvenile justice. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and particularly appreciate the opportunity to thank Diana and Neil for trying to change the thought process in Congress in dealing with a lot of social problems, thinking from a long-term prevention-oriented approach rather than waiting for the problems to show up and then trying to do something about it. I guess the worst example of policy generally made by politicians is in crime policy, where we always wait until after the children have dropped out of school, joined the gang, committed a bunch of crimes, get caught, and then here we come trying to outbid each other as to who can inflict the worst punishment. But we know that if we take a proactive prevention approach, a comprehensive evidence-based approach, starting with teen pregnancy prevention so fewer babies are born into dysfunctional families, and prenatal care can reduce mental retardation, learning disabilities, early child nurse visits that can reduce child abuse, highly correlated with future crime, make sure they're on the track for education so that they're out of what we now have as a cradle to prison pipeline and convert that into a cradle to college and career pipeline. We know that if you do that in an evidence-based approach, you will reduce crime and save money, rather than the overloaded prison situation where we have now. And it's so overloaded that there are recent studies that show that we lock up so many people with the incarceration rate is actually counterproductive. You're messing up so many families, you're wasting so much money, you got so many people with felony records can't find jobs. You've got everybody locked up that needs to be locked up, and all that, those extra people is actually counterproductive to the goal of reducing crime. And so if we take a prevention approach, it's not only proactive, it's not only evidence-based, it's not only more effective, but it also saves more money than it spends. You mentioned the same thing in healthcare. Rather than wait for people to get sick, do the preventive stuff so they don't get sick to begin with. Diabetes and things like that are just a huge expense on the healthcare system. If you had thought better a few years before, you could have prevented all of that problem. You mentioned interdisciplinary. You have to work with everybody, because if everybody's working in that little silo, you can solve your problem, and all you've done is created a problem for somebody else. Something like a zero tolerance education disciplinary strategy kicks all these kids out of school. Well, okay, the education department has solved their problem. Then you look over at criminal justice and wonder why so many dropouts are getting into trouble. All you've done is create a problem. You've got to get everybody around the table at the same time dealing with these problems. And we know that if you do it right, you'll be effective and save money. That's why the social impact bonds are such an exciting subject, because if we're right, a lot of people are going to be saving money. The problem with this is the people that save the money aren't the ones making the investment. If our local school board invests in after-school programs and summer activities and everything else, reducing crime, well, the Department of Corrections will save the money. Well, they didn't spend the money. And the social impact bonds can gather everybody kind of together in the same system, and if you promise to save money and actually save money, then you've got money to pay off the social impact bonds. It's not that complicated. In most of these, it's not hard to find a lot of initiatives that will save more money than they cost, and the social impact bonds can gather those savings, and for those that believe in it, can put up the money and actually make a profit on it, so that they can prove they're doing right. That can be the source of initial funding, and as people save money, you can pay off the bonds and have future savings in the future. So it's an exciting idea. We talk about saving money, more effective strategy and saving money, and this is one way where we can kind of put those ideas to work. So Nana, thank you for coming. You've covered several, you've had several of these and a lot of different subjects, but hopefully enough members of Congress will be thinking kind of long-term, not what effect it'll have next week, but the long-term savings and long-term effect and prevention is one of the strategies we need to do more of. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We have some staffers here. Yeah. Denise Fort is the staff director on the Committee on Education and Workforce. David Daly is my legislative director. Christian Haynes is with the Education Workforce Committee.
Rika.
Huh?
Rika training.
Rika is press secretary for the committee. Ken is an intern in my Washington office. And Bobby Vassar is the reaction that everybody has. Staff pro tem or emeritus, staff emeritus, who was with me for a long time in Washington, and also when I was in the state senate, was in various administration positions doing this kind of work. Helped put together the Council on Prevention that we created in Virginia that put all this together. We had all the agencies there together, so if education was trying to kick kids out of school, criminal justice services was there, said, no, don't do that. And we had a excellent council on coordinating prevention for the Commonwealth of Virginia. When I got elected to Congress, they looked up, the agency didn't have an advocate. And it's about 1 year after I left that they abolished it. And I hope they have the common decency to regret it. But Bobby was instrumental in all that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.